Good evening and welcome to your Monday, August 5, 2024 edition of the Evening News. I am Jemima Holmes. Thank you for joining us. Let's take a look at some of the lead stories tonight. Guyana government seeking US $20 million to compensate state for Clico payments. The police can only do so much, says traffic chief on growing congestion on roadways. 85% of the forces filed in last 5 years were uncontested. MANICKCHAND quells fears about updated law. PAC calls for forensic audit into $269 million worth of unaccounted drugs, and elections fraud trial adjourned to Wednesday as magistrate UNWELL. Now for the news in detail. True to its word, the government of Guyana has approached the High Court to seek the US $20 million currently lodged in an escrow account in order to compensate the state for the billions it spent covering Clico's liabilities in Guyana after its 2009 collapse. Here is Gerald Bryan with our lead story tonight.
The government of Guyana has taken Clico Investment Bank Limited to the High Court as the battle for US $20 million lodged in an escrow account held by the Deeds Registry continues. According to the statement of claim, the government is seeking the release of the funds to its possession to compensate it for the money it spent covering Clico's liabilities in Guyana. Clico was a Trinidadian financial company that had policyholders throughout the region, including Guyana. When Clico collapsed throughout the region in 2009, many policyholders throughout CARICOM were unable to receive the monies they had invested at face value. According to the claim, the defendant and other members of the Clico group knew they would be unable to compensate policyholders in Guyana. The claim notes that they stood by and watched as the government of Guyana took on those responsibilities. The claim states that the government of Guyana paid as much as $5.6 billion to the National Insurance Scheme, NIS, which was at risk of collapsing around the same time as Clico. Moreover, a judgment was already issued against CL Financial Limited, the parent company of the defendant. To date, this judgment has never been enforced. That judgment, issued in 2019 by Justice Gino Passad, included special damages of US $34 million. Guyana, represented by Attorney General Anil Nandalal, is therefore seeking the release of the US $20 million in the escrow account as partial payment of the total US $34 million, in addition to an order to levy on any assets owned by Clico in Guyana. They are also seeking an interim order blocking the release of the money in the escrow account until their case is determined. An order is also being sought to trace and make a claim on Clico's assets. The filing of this case comes a month after the High Court barred Clico Investment Bank from accessing the US $20 million in the escrow account. At the time, Nandalal had announced that the government of Guyana would be going to the court to seek the money on behalf of the state. Gerald Bryan, The Evening News.
When it comes to the seemingly growing problem of traffic congestion on the roadways, Traffic Chief Mahindra Singh is contending that the police can only do so much, noting that in many cases the situation is out of the control of traffic ranks. Michael Henry tells us more.
In response to constant traffic congestions on the roadways, Traffic Chief Senior Superintendent Mahindra Singh has explained that the problems are often caused by poorly executed order of roadworks or heavy-duty machinery breaking down on the roadways. Regarding the machineries that break down on the roadways, the Traffic Chief contended that owners and contractors must take more responsibility to ensure the vehicles in question are in working order.
The person who's transporting the crane or large equipment, can they fact check the lorry and or lobet to ensure that it's properly maintained? So professionally, I tell you, the only thing I can do to mitigate is to one, work with the Harbor Bridge or maybe others who are owners of these large equipment and or lorries to transport them. To move the equipment during hours that are not peak, non-peak rather. Two, for us to have placement of runs on foot or motorcycles along the stretch where the congestion is likely to occur most, either at the bridge junction or at the loop. And now with the large construction on the west side, you have the bridge junction, the loop, you have Crane Torn, and several others.
The traffic chief also reflected on this weekend's unusual traffic buildup on the east coast of Demerara, which saw motorists stuck in traffic for hours.
When they excavate that carriageway, they incidentally damage one of the GWI main pipes. that it was worse the night before. GWI came and didn't remedy it until after midday the following day. Then to top it off, the contractor poured cement mixture. So you had implication for one, nothing still could drive over it because they got a cure.
Right.
No. Police were left to maneuver within one lane of traffic for 2 lanes of vehicle flow. Then drivers on the railway embankment, the inconsiderate attitude of some drivers in this country cannot be overlooked. When 2 lanes of traffic were flowing, many of them form a third and a fourth lane. So anything going east can't progress. What is going west will go at a snail's pace.
Nevertheless, the traffic chief reminded that his department is also limited by resources. He explained that traffic ranks are also required for patrols and escorts and for both nighttime and daytime duties.
I'm saying that the allotment of ranks that we have, sometimes when these demands come up, there may be an insufficiency of police to address the multiple locations in a specific space to adequately bring relief right away. We can't have people hiding under rocks thinking that we have plenty ranks. We have all the ranks in the world, and yet still we can't achieve anything with it.
Moreover, he emphasized that there can be a significant relief of traffic congestion once cooperation from motorists is achieved.
When these machines break down the road and the congestion is driven by the actions of inconsiderate drivers, only then you hear that the police are needed. The police can only do so much. With the cooperation and or the observation of the rules of the road and compliance with direction and the rules of the road, much more can be done.
Michelle Henry, The Evening News.
Addressing concerns over the recent legislative updates regarding divorces in the country, Education Minister MANICKCHAND, a lawyer by profession, has explained that majority of the divorces sought in the last 5 years were uncontested. In this regard, she explained that the new law should not result in a wanton increase in divorces in the country. Here is Michelle Henry again with the details.
The Matrimonial Causes Amendment Bill was recently passed in the National Assembly. Under the previous legislation, couples seeking divorce faced the arduous task of proving fault, which often led to bitter proceedings, unnecessary animosity, and prolonged legal battles. The requirement to assign blame often exacerbated already strained relationships, making it difficult for parties to move forward amicably, especially when children were involved. The new legislation removes the requirement to establish fault when seeking divorces. This change not only streamlines the divorce process, but also promotes a more compassionate approach to separation, recognizing that marriages can irretrievably break down for a multitude of reasons. During a social media broadcast message, Minister of Education MANICKCHAND, a lawyer by profession, revealed that 85% of divorces in the last 5 years were uncontested.
3% were contested and the others were either dismissed or pending or so on. So I'm saying to you, the majority of people already agreed over the last 5 years, and the numbers aren't very different from 10 years ago or 20 years ago, that this marriage is over and they want a divorce. But we forced them to say horrible, unkind things about each other. Now, they can go get that divorce without saying those things.
In this regard, she dispelled concern to the public that this new law will encourage more people to unnecessarily get divorced.
People here tend to fight for their marriages, stay long past the due date, stay long past, put up with a lot of abuse and insults and hardships in an effort to save the marriage. Nobody runs off to get a divorce because they can. And I don't see that happening here. So I think it's a misplaced fear.
Moreover, the new law is accompanied by safeguards to ensure that adequate provisions are made for the welfare of children and vulnerable parties during divorce proceedings. By prioritizing fairness and justice, the law aims to protect the rights of all individuals involved, fostering a more equitable outcome for families undergoing separation. Michelle Henry, The Evening News.
Construction works on the $1.45 billion Aubrey Barker Road 4-lane expansion project is set to be completed in phases as the government moves to fast-track the delayed project. Details in this Trishel Sobers report.
The $1.45 billion Aubrey Barker Road 4-lane expansion project started in August 2022 and should have been delivered in July 2023. The contract was awarded to Surrey Paving Aggregate Company Caribbean Limited. However, amid delays faced in the completion of the project, the Public Works Ministry had sent out tenders in February 2024 for the continuation of the 1.3-kilometer road, which will be expanded into 4 lanes. The contractors for this aspect of the project have since been identified and works are ongoing. The works include the build-out of drains to address the issue of flooding, which severely affect the community when it rains. According to Public Works Minister Juan Edgel, paving for the stretch of road will be completed by the end of next week, while remaining structures will be delivered afterwards.
This section that is unpaved should be completely paved by the end of next week. Surrey Paving have another 20 meters to complete their paving. So the instructions are that by next week, the 1 kilometer will be completed. We have since awarded 2 other lots to R&B and Premium Asphalt, which would be 650 meters each, which is 1.3 kilometers. So within this present program, we're going to be going down all the way to 2.3 kilometers.
Edgel explained that while the road expansion project started at Aubrey Barker, plans are afoot to rehabilitate and widen the main access road throughout South Rhineveld. He said this undertaking will cater for the buildup of traffic from Mandela Avenue that needs to access South Rhineveld and Roxanne Burnham Gardens.
We intend to continue to push this road all the way up, but we're doing it in phases. The problems that we have encountered included the water levels, and that's nothing new, really. But we would have thought that with the fill that we would have put in and the design that we would have put, we were able to overcome this. So we would like to do a lot more work in the internal areas of South. But because of the water, you can't put asphalt in that environment.
The Aubrey Barker Road 4-lane expansion project has experienced its share of interruptions causing stagnation. Challenges range from the improper placement of utility poles, flooding due to constant rainfall, and procurement issues, among others. Trishelle Sobers, Evening News.
In keeping with the government's commitment to support the work of the Public Utilities Commission to improve the quality of public services provided to citizens, President Dr. Irfan Ali has disclosed plans to strengthen the agency's regulatory framework. The head of state made this announcement during the swearing-in ceremony of Dr. Nanda Gopal as new chairman of PUC and retired Justice of Appeal B.S. Roy as chairman of Public Service Appellate Tribunal. Here is Trishelle Sobers again with the details.
The government is prepared to support efforts at strengthening the country's regulatory framework in relation to public utilities, so to allow the PUC to better discharge its mandate in a more modernized economy. The quality of public utilities can act as either an incentive or disincentive for attracting investment, improve utility services, ensure that businesses can operate with fewer disruptions, reduce operational costs, tap into new opportunities, and acquire competitive edges.
That was President Dr. Irfan Ali addressing the gathering at the swearing-in ceremony for the chairmen of the Public Utilities Commission and the Public Service Appellate Tribunal. In outlining the various functions of the PUC, President Ali stressed that the Commission is also required to ensure that every public utility maintains its property and equipment in such condition that enables service that is adequate, efficient, non-discriminatory, affordable, and safe. On this point, he underscored the need for expansion as it relates to the upskilling of personnel within the agency.
Some expansion is needed. Critical skills that will be needed to help the PUC in this very competitive, expanded environment it must operate in. As Guyana undergoes a significant economic transformation, the role of the public utilities in enhancing services to both citizens and businesses becomes increasingly crucial. However, this enhanced role also endows utility with greater market power and influence, which must be carefully managed to avoid potential misuse.
Aside from strengthening the PUC regulatory framework to enhance Guyana's economic competitiveness, the Guyanese leader also emphasized the need for regular outreaches and engagements to far-flung communities in the hinterland and coastland. In this regard, the PUC chairman, Dr. Nanda Gopal, was tasked with ensuring that the Commission enhances its presence in the various regions and exercise the oath of office in the interest of good governance whilst doing so.
We believe as a government that we need to do more to ensure that all our citizens are acquainted with the different commissions and are acquainted with their rights so that they can equally benefit from and take part in and be a part of these commissions and bodies that protect their rights.
Trishelle Sobers, Evening News.
Coming up, Guyanese must be vigilant and prepared for future threats to democracy, says Nandlal, Antarctica experiencing destruction.